We're on Terumos.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Good Olive. Regarding both this and that, Rabbi Shua said, "This is not the truma which I am bidden not to render unclean, only which I may not eat, and which I may not render unclean." If he was passing from one place to another with loaves of truma in his hands, and a non-Jew said to him, "Give me one, and I shall render it unclean, and if not, I shall render all unclean." If Eliezer says, "Let him render all unclean, and let him not give one to render it unclean," and Yeshua says, "Let him place the one before him on a stone." And so too, women to whom non-Jews said, give us one of you, and we shall defile her. Otherwise, we shall defile all of you. Let them all of them be defiled, and let them not hand over to them one Israelite soul. If one sowed truma, if in error, he must plow it over. But if it willfully, he must let it grow. If it reached the third of its growth, whether in error or willfully, he must let it grow. And in the case of flax, if willfully, he must plow it over.
Okay.
Okay.
V'chayeves beleket. So now we're talking about, let's say, some truma produce was planted and we had to let it grow either because it was mazed or because it reached a third of its growth and then we realized it was truma. So now what's the halacha of this growth that was planted from truma seeds? Okay, so the important thing to understand over here, the fundamental is that actually min haTorah, if you have a seed that disintegrates in the ground, Minatora, that it loses its shem truma. It lost its shem truma when it went into the ground and got buried, and now what grows up is chulin. But Chazal made a knas on it and said that you have to treat it like truma. But when Chazal make a knas on it, they don't take it away from the dinim of from the din of the Torah. Because even though the Torah seems like a kula, there's also a chumrah in there, is that Truma doesn't need Trumas and Masters taken off it, but Chulin does.
Right.
If it's growing up as Chulin, now you've got to
Right.
look at all of the things that are applicable to Chulin. Also, the first thing we're seeing is Leket Shicha and Peah, all the gifts to the poor. Truma you don't give to the poor, but
Right.
Leket Shicha and Peah you do. So this growth that comes up, he has to open up his field, but he has to put up a big warning sign saying, "Warning: this field is Truma." So Aniyim come in, but be aware. Aniyah Yisrael v'Aniyah Kohanim Melaktim. Any Aniyim are allowed to come and gather it. V'Aniyah Yisrael mochrinis shelahim leKohanim b'dmei truma. So the Israelim can take this truma produce and sell it onto the Kohanim because it's legitimate for them to come into possession of it because it's matanot la'aniyim, but but they've still got to hand it over to the coin. Well, they've got to sell it to a coin because they can't consume it themselves. But damim shalehim, so they get to keep the money. Rabbi Tarfon omer lo yilaktu ela aniyei kohanim. Rabbi Tarfon doesn't like this idea. He says it's dangerous for Yisraelim to come into here. Shema yishkachu v'yitzunu l'soch because maybe they'll eat while they're out walking, while they're out gathering. Rabbi Akiva is not impressed by this. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva im kain. Okay, so let's take things your way. Lo yilaktu ela tohorim. Fine. Only let poor kohanim who are tahor go into the field because they might forget themselves and eat. Okay. And by the way, why aren't we concerned about Tamaim coming and plucking chuma? Because as long as it doesn't get wet, it can become tamei. Okay,
Right.
so that's okay. V'chayeves. Okay, v'chayeves b'masos v'maser oni. Okay, so and furthermore, it's just like other chulin, minator because minator this is chulin, but we have a chomer on it that we have to treat it like truma. Well, chomer it's a din derabanan. Okay, chayeves b'masos v'maser oni. It's you still have to take off masros and maser ani. V'aniyah Yisrael v'aniyah Kohanim notlim, and the poor of the poor Israelites and poor Kohanim are allowed to take this. V'aniyah Yisrael mochrin shelahem leKohanim b'tmei truma v'adamim shelahem. So once again, if it's a master on a year and you have to give some of this to the aniyim, then if it goes to poor Yisraelim, then they can sell it to Kohanim. Hachovet meshubach. Now, what about the produce? How do you deal with the actual produce? Because now You'll see in the Mishnah over here, the problem is that if you're using animals to thresh your grain, okay, we have a halacha that you're not allowed to muzzle an ox while you're threshing it. Okay, so the problem is that if you're a Yisrael and you're busy threshing this grain, which is truma grain, and you're going to have to sell it on to Kohanim, okay, um, then your animal is not allowed to eat the grain because only the animal of a Kohen is allowed to eat truma. So he's going to have to muzzle his animal, but he's not allowed to muzzle his animal. So the best thing to do in this situation is to do it by hand yourself. Chobek, go and beat it yourself as a by hand. Okay. But if somebody wants to use animals because it's just too much to do by human hand, Tolek fifos betzavre behema. He must basically put what are those things called? And you put it over the animal's mouth. That holds the fodder inside their mouth.
Mm.
Okay. So and he should put also the same species that they're busy threshing. He must put into the come on. There's a special word for it. You know what I mean? Uh,
Uh,
you put a thing over the animal's mouth, which has got food inside it.
I just know muzzle. That's the only thing I know. I don't. That goes
Yeah.
over there.
Let me ask. I'll ask Grok quickly. Uh, what do you call the thing you put over an animal's mouth that is full of food? Let's see if Grok can tell me. A grazing muzzle. Okay, it's called a grazing muzzle. Fine. I thought there was a single word for it.
Yeah,
Okay. Nimta lo zomem es behema, so velo ma'achil es truma. So if you do something like that, then you're not muzzling the animal, and you're also not feeding the animal truma. Okay.
but you said it had to be the same produce as that's on the ground. Didn't
Yes,
you say that?
it has to be the same type, not the same produce.
Oh,
So
it's the same type.
if it's threshing wheat, if
Right.
it's truma on the ground, you must put obviously chulin into the animal's muzzle.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Gidule truma. So anything that grows from truma produce is considered truma, as we've just learned. Begidule gidulin chulin. But if he takes it one step further, this is called chulin. Okay, it's lost. It loses its. We're not goes there further degrees than this. Aval tevel. If somebody planted produce that was untithed, okay, or Maaser Rishon. Also, if you have Maaser Rishon, that Maaser Rishon where the truma wasn't taken out of it. Okay, Usfiches Shvius and plants that grew by themselves in Shemitah. Trumas chutz la'aretz and truma that came from chutz la'aretz, right? We midrabanan, there are places we take truma from Syria and from Babel and okay, Bahamaduma and chulin that was mixed with truma, but bikurim and and the first fruits if they got planted again, gidulehen chulin, we're not machmir on them. We're only machmir on truma for this. Even if you replanted tevel, we don't have an issue with it. Gidule hekdesh maaseh sheni. What happens if you took temple produce that belonged to the temple, or produce that was maaseh sheni and was supposed to be eaten in Yerushalayim and it got replanted? Once again, chulin. It comes up and we call it chulin. However, he still has to redeem the original seeds that went in. Okay. Podewasam bisman zaram. You have to take a look. What was the value when you planted them, not the value of the plants that have come out now. So, because all you're redeeming is the seed. But all of this, by the way, is talking about seeds where they disintegrate and regrow. But we're going to see that if the original stays in place, like an onion or garlic, then this is not going to apply. But that's in the Mishnayos that we're going to read. I
I
think
don't understand the
tomorrow.
whole process that you put a seed in and it disintegrates, but yet something grows from that. I still don't. And
Cool, huh?
oh, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Trumas.
That's
Okay.
Gimel.
Gimel. If one gives his laborers and gets truma to eat, he pays its value and they pay the fifth. So says Rameir. But the comments say they pay its value and the fifth, and he pays them the value of their meal. If one sold truma but did not eat it, he pays double the value of truma. If he ate it, he pays twice its value and a fifth. The value plus a fifth from chulin and the value of truma. If one sold truma of hegdish and he ate it, he pays two-fifths and its value, since twofold payment does not apply to hegdish. One may not pay from lechet, as shechapea or hefka, nor from masa rishon, or from which its truma has been taken, or from ma'aser sheni or hegdish, which has been redeemed. For one holy thing cannot redeem another. So says Reb Meir, but they can come and permit with these. Okay.
Okay.
And it's base. In Syria, one may attend to the detached, but not to the attached. One may thresh, winnow, thread, and bind, but not harvest, nor gather grapes, nor pick olives. Rabbi Kiva laid down a general rule: the like of whatsoever is permitted in Eretz Yisrael may be done in Syria. Onions on which rain has fallen, on which have sprouted, if their leaves are black, they're forbidden. If they became green, they are permitted. Chanina ben Tignio says, if they can be pulled out by their leaves, they are forbidden, like those, the like of these in the eighth year are permitted. And from when may one buy vegetables in the eighth year? Once the same kind is ripened. If the early ripener has produced, the late ripener is permitted. Rabbi permitted to buy vegetables immediately after the end of the seventh year.
Brachos.
Solid. If many varieties were placed before him, Rabbi Yehuda says, if one of the seven is among them, he recites the blessing over it. The Chachamim say he blesses over whatever he wishes. If one recited the blessing over wine before the meal, he has exempted the wine drunk after the meal. If one recited a baracha over the papyrus before the meal, he need not recite any blessing over the papyrus after the conclusion of the meal. If he recited the blessing over bread, he has exempted the papyrus, and over papyrus, he does not exempt the bread. Beit Shammai says also not a cooked dish, any cooked dish. Okay.
One more.
And we have, if they were sitting upright to eat, each one blesses for himself. If they recline, one blesses for all. If wine is brought to them during the meal, each one blesses for himself. And after the meal, one may bless for all. He also recites the blessing over the incense, even though the incense is served after the meal. Okay.
All right. Right, let's go and finish Adios.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Olos first. Beg your pardon. Ohalos first.
Olios, I have Yud Vav.
Yep.
If there is a skylight in the roof of a house and a pot is placed upon the skylight so that if the pot was raised, its edges would not touch the roof surrounding the skylight, and there is tumah below, inside or above the pot, the tumah penetrates upward and downward. If the pot is one handbreadth above the ground and there is tumah below it or inside the house, the area below the pot and inside the house becomes tameh. But whatever is inside or above the pot remains tahor. If the tumah is inside or above the pot, everything becomes tameh. If a pot was placed on a threshold in such a way that if raised, it would extend over the outer handbreadth of the lintel, and there is tumah below, inside, or above the pot, the tumah penetrates upward and downward. If the pot is one handbreadth above the ground and there is tumah below it or inside the house, the area below the pot and the inside of the house becomes tameh, but whatever is inside or above the pot remains tahor. And if the tumah is inside or above the pot, everything becomes tameh. If the pot was placed on the threshold so that it was raised, it would not touch an outer raised so that it would not touch an outer handbreadth of the lintel, or if it's touching the side of the lintel, and there is tumah underneath the pot, only what is below the pot becomes tameh. If the roof of a house is split and tumah is in the outer part, utensils that are in the inner part remains tahor. If tumah is in the inner part, Beis Shammai says the split must be 4 handbreadths wide, or for the outer part it remains tahor. Whereas Beis Hillel says it remains tahor even if the split is very small. And Rabbi Yossi says in the name of Beis Hillel, a handbreadth. Okay. And we got to Avodah Zorah. Oh.
No, first Adios. Let's finish Adios first.
Adios also, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbi Shua said, Rabbi Shua said, I have a tradition from Rabbi Zochanan ben Zakkai that who heard it from his teacher and his teacher from his teacher as the Lord taught orally to Moses and Sinai, that Elijah will not come to declare him pure or pure, to distance or to draw near. Rather, Elijah will act to distance those who are drawing near through force and to draw near those who are distant by force. There was a family by the name of Tisera on the east bank of the Jordan, and East Ben Sion distanced its members by fence, by force. And there was another family there, Ben Sion drew near them near with force. Like these, Eliyahu will come to declare impure, pure to distance or draw near. Rabbi Yehuda says he will come to draw near and not to distance. And Rabbi Shimon says he will come to reconcile the differences of opinion. And the commentator will come neither to distance nor to draw near, but only to make peace in the world. As it states, behold, I send you Eliyahu the prophet before the coming of the great and awesome day of Hashem, and he will reconcile the hearts of the fathers to the sons, and the hearts of the sons to the fathers.
Adon Allah Masefes Edios.
Now we'll go.
Okay.
Uh, Preceding the festivals or calamities of idolaters for 3 days, it is forbidden to transact the business. Take and give with them, to lend them articles or to borrow articles from them, to lend them money, to borrow money from them, to repay a debt to them, or to accept repayment from them. But Yehuda says, we may accept repayment from them since this causes him distress. They said to him, even though it causes him distress, now he rejoices afterwards. Rabbi Ishmael says it's forbidden for 3 days preceding them, for 3 days following them. But as I say, the Chachamim say, before the festivals it's forbidden, but after the festivals it's permitted. And these are the idol festivals.
We're done. We're done.
Oh yeah, because we did one of the other one. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, Chagiga.
Okay. Bet hey. We must wash the hands for unsanctified food, for Meiser and for Truma, but for Kodesh we must immerse the hands. Regarding the water of cleansing, if one's hands become contaminated, his entire body is considered contaminated. If one immersed himself for unsanctified food and only intended to cleanse himself for unsanctified food, he's prohibited from eating Meiser. If he immersed himself for Meiser and only intended to clean himself from Meiser, he's prohibited from eating Truma. If he immersed himself for Truma and only intended to cleanse himself for Truma, he is permitted from eating Kodesh. If he immersed himself for Kodesh and only intended to cleanse himself for Kodesh, he is prohibited from touching water of cleansing. If he immersed himself for a more stringent matter, he is permitted to occupy himself with a less stringent matter. If he immersed himself without any intention, it is deemed as if he had not immersed himself. The garments of an Amaretz have midrash contamination perushim. Gardens of perushim have midrash contamination for those who eat truma, and gardens of those who eat truma have midrash contamination for those who eat kodesh, and garments of those who eat kodesh have midrash contamination for those who handle purification water. Yosef ben Yosef was the most devout of the Kohanim, yet his napkin was deemed to have midrash contamination for those who eat kodesh. Yochanan ben Gadda used to eat according to the purity regulations of Kodesh all his life. Yet his napkin was deemed to have midrash contamination for those who handle purification waters.
Okay, and we're done.
Oh, I
Have
want
a
to ask you
wonderful day.